Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. How are you, brother Harry? How's it going?
Walaikum salam, rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Ali, how you doing? Good to see you finally in person. Sort of.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, exactly. Sort of in person, sort of not. Yeah, no kidding.
Sort
How's
of
it going?
person. It's
We're in the
going
same time
great.
zone, at least. Well, no, I guess we're not. We're an hour apart now. Actually, just found out about an hour
Is
ago.
it 2:30 your time?
It's 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
In Bangkok.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I said 2030. I meant to say 2030. Yeah, I
20:30.
think
Yep.
it's not that we're in different time zones. We're in the same time, but we have
Oh,
different prayer times.
prayer times. Oh, because you're so
Yeah.
far south. Gotcha.
Yes. I had the same thing going on in Kuala Lumpur. I was in Kuala Lumpur last week visiting family.
Oh,
My
cool.
dad lives in Vietnam, and I live
Oh,
over
wow.
here in Jakarta with my wife. So we went
Lovely.
halfway to Malaysia. And Fajr over here is usually around 4:30 to 5
Okay.
in Jakarta,
Yeah.
and over there it's like 5:30 to 6.
Oh my gosh, you got to sleep in a little. A little. Unless you're team
I
tahajjud,
don't
which
really sleep. You know.
right. Yeah. Like if you're team tahajjud, you're up no matter what. Like it's like an hour at least before Fajr. So, yeah.
I mean,
I always
I'm
like to
kind of
ask.
sort of team Tahajjud. I'm really more
Yeah.
just of an insomniac. So it's like, I don't want to toot my horn too much
Oh.
here.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
of course. Um oh, so you're an insomniac. Well, it's probably because you're having coffee at 9:30 at night or 8:30 at night. That
Well,
might
even
have
if
something
I
to do with
stopped
it.
drinking coffee, I'd still have insomnia. It's just a chronic
Really?
problem.
Oh,
Had it for a long time.
alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I had it for a long time. Yeah, I
Really?
started in the army, then it got worse during trucking, and it's not going away. I've
No.
talked to doctors. They said, nah, it's pretty chronic. Yeah, it's just is
Really?
what it
Oh,
is.
wow. So you sort of accept it and move on, right? Like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, I still sleep. I just sleep whenever I feel tired, and there's no consistency. Trucking really did me in after the army because it
Mm.
was trucking with your long haul trucking across America. What ends up happening is you're going back and forth across multiple time zones,
Oh
and you
gosh.
have different load and unload times. So
Right.
just you never have a consistent sleep schedule at all, and just
Oof,
ruined it.
brutal.
5 years of that
Yeah.
just ruined it. This is what it is.
Yeah, no kidding. It is, alhamdulillah. Okay, so for people who don't know you, what's your journey to Islam been like? So you're American.
Yeah, I'm a Texan and I'm an American.
Oh, Texan. Oh,
I've
cool.
been yeah, I've been Muslim for about 5 years now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
my religious background, growing up as a kid, I'm from Waco, Texas originally. Growing up as a kid,
Wow.
we were kind of moderately religious, not really religious.
Right.
My parents were kind of into like spiritual but not religious things.
Oh, interesting. Like,
But
what kind of what does that mean exactly?
oh, some new age, some meditation, kind of like how you were talking
Mm,
about yoga stuff. Yeah.
right.
My I was nominally Catholic growing up. Then my parents got divorced. My mother
Mm.
decided to leave my father for another man, and
Oh,
she decided that we were going to go spend as much time with him as possible. Or basically, he moved in with my mother, so I was
okay.
bouncing around between those two households growing up. And when I was about 14, 15 years old, I'd moved to Buffalo, New York because my mom's side of the family is
Wow.
from there. And it was not a fun experience.
Yeah,
And
Buffalo.
my
That's
family was kind of, well, Buffalo was cool. But
right,
the
right.
whole
But that's a
thing of
big
going
contrast
through,
from Waco.
well, I'm more talking about being like in that sort of family situation.
Okay.
I started discovering Eastern Orthodoxy. There was a Russian Orthodox church abroad down the street, or
Oh,
on the other side of town from where I lived. And
okay.
it was something that I kind of got into. It was something to kind of get me out of the house, get me out of that
Mm.
family situation, kind of get me, give me some direction and purpose and meaning. And also, I was just happy to have found God. I was at that point kind of like a
Mm.
bitter, kind of resentful, angry teenage atheist. So
Right.
I was happy to find God. And you could say that I was so happy to find God and find something that was so based and real. Orthodox Christianity is pretty based. It's pretty
Yeah,
based,
right.
bro.
Yeah.
I just didn't really think through all the problems.
Right.
I was just so happy to find something that was the opposite of all the nonsense going on around me that I just didn't really think it through.
Right.
And you know, uh, one thing led to another. When I was about 17, 18, I joined the army and got out of my
Mm.
mom's house. And I went to Iraq in 2008. I was military
Oof.
police, or as I like to
Wow.
call it, combat babysitter. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Explain to me, what does that mean exactly? Just I have
well, it's
no idea about
it's a joke. Military police, and this is true for pretty much military police in any military around the world, is you typically deal with people on post. Deal with
Okay.
drunk people, deal with this domestic
Oh.
disputes. In the military context.
Oh. Oh, I see. Okay, I
Yeah,
didn't know that. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah,
So you're a babysitter.
yeah.
Oh, wow. So you would stay
I
on
joke
base
about
and
that.
then just deal with other like military families? Is that right?
No, I actually didn't get to do any of that. One of the other things that the military police were used for in the global war on terrorism, especially in Iraq and Afghanistan, was we were sent to Iraq and Afghanistan. And we weren't infantry, but we would
Mm.
go down a lot of the same routes that they did. And our mission primarily was to deal with Iraqi police and locals and try and
Oh.
win hearts and minds and, you know,
Oh, interesting. I
babysit the
see.
Iraqi
Okay.
police too. Yeah, that's why I
Oh my
joke.
goodness.
That's why I joke we're combat babysitters. I'm not Delta
I
Force. I'm not
see.
Special Forces. I'm just a babysitter. That's why I joke. It's a
Babysitter.
joke.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get that now. Okay, so I thought you were on the base, but you're actually in Iraq and then dealing with that. And then also, wow, that's really interesting. So you had a lot of face-to-face time with locals then.
I did, and I started realizing from going out on patrols, talking to people at these different Iraqi police stations. A lot of times, the Iraqi police themselves would come up and talk. And then keep in mind, it was still dicey in 2008, 2009, but it wasn't
Mm,
like 04 or 05. It was more like
right.
being a cop in a bad neighborhood
I see.
with bombs, more than actual
Oh.
war. I don't want to think. I don't want to toot my own horn and make myself sound like so cartel twisted. I'm not anything like that. So please
Right,
don't
right.
put that
Yeah,
on me.
right.
Um, but it was a good experience because what it did is it forced me to when I joined, I signed up. I really loved the army. I was good at it. I was super motivated in the beginning, and I also was super I was convinced that Islam was an enemy of America. That's
Oh,
how I thought at
interesting.
the time.
Okay. Right.
I thought we're in this. Yeah, there's some good Muslims, but we're in this existential life and death class of civilizations thingamajigger with them. And I
Right.
started talking to the locals, and I realized, oh, I don't really know anything about Islam, and everything I'm learning about Islam is complete nonsense. And then 2008 is around the time of the presidential election, and
Oh,
Ron
right. Okay.
Paul, Ron Paul was running on the Republican ticket. He
Okay.
was in the
Wow.
race, and Ron Paul was getting up in speeches on stage and saying, "They don't hate us for our freedom. Listen to Dr. Michael Scheuer, the former head of the CIA, Bin Laden unit, who I actually did a podcast with a
Oh,
few months
cool.
back, way a while back now. But and I'm just like, I was in when I had off time, I'd go listen to Ron Paul and Dr. Michael Scheuer,
Wow.
the guy who wrote Imperial Hubris. And basically, Dr. Scheuer was saying, look, they don't hate us for freedom; they hate us because we're over there. And I'm
Yes,
trying
thank
to
you.
put
Yeah.
two and two together, and I'm like realizing everything about this war is a lie, and everything that we're being told about Islam is a lie,
Wow.
and it just starts slowly dawning on me. And then towards the end of the deployment, we were about 2 weeks from going home, and I got blown up.
Oh my
Some kid came
gosh.
to Yeah, some kid, some Iraqi kid. He was maybe 8, 9 years old. He walked into school and then he pulled a bomb out of his backpack and threw it over the wall. And I got pretty injured. I had to get
Oh,
medevac down there. Yeah, so I got
wow.
medically retired from that. Yeah, I got medically retired from that. Almost died. Uh, a lot of still have shrapnel in my body, have back problems. I still have a bunch of crazy stuff. But alhamdulillah, I'm here. I'm alive.
Yeah,
That
alhamdulillah.
experience
Yeah.
of the experience of like almost dying, and then also realizing that the war was based on nonsense, and that
Right.
we're being
Right
lied
before
to
you
about
were
Islam.
leaving. Yeah, wow.
Right. Yeah, so I was out the door. And so I just look at this and I go, okay, so if they lied to us about this, and if
Mm-hmm.
that's not really Islam, what is the real Islam? And so that kind of set me on
Mm-hmm.
a journey of thinking and learning about what the real Islam is.
Right.
And 5 years ago, I took my shahada.
Alhamdulillah. So where were you when you took your shahada? Were you back in Waco?
I don't really live in Waco. I
Right.
have an address somewhere in the Dallas Fort Worth area I use
Okay.
to have a mailbox.
Right.
I live overseas here in Southeast Asia now. I'm retired, so
Right.
I live
Okay.
pretty
So you
comfortably
took
over
your
here.
shahada there in
No, I
Southeast
took it in
Asia.
Texas.
You did take it in
I
Texas.
took it.
Okay.
I did take it in Texas, and later I had to retake it in Indonesia to get married. Yeah,
So your wife's Indonesian.
she is. So
Oh,
I've lived
alhamdulillah.
in. I lived in Southeast Asia off and on for a little over a decade.
Oh, cool.
My
Okay.
father lives in Vietnam, and he invited me out to Vietnam about 12 years ago. I lived in
Okay.
Vietnam for 2 years. Yeah, I lived in
Oh,
Vietnam for two
cool.
years.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. I lived there for about 2 years, and one thing led to another, and then I found my now ex-wife here in
Mm.
Jakarta. I was still Christian
Okay.
at the time. I went online, found her. I met her over here. I started going back and forth between Vietnam and Jakarta. I was working at some sort of like security company trying to advise them on how to have better security. It was like kind of, just hire a white guy kind of job, you know.
Okay.
It wasn't anything serious. So,
Right.
so I found my ex-wife was Chinese Christian Indonesian, and
Oh,
this was
wow.
before I
Interesting.
became Muslim.
Right.
Yeah, so I spent about 5 or 6 years. I transitioned to long haul trucking, where I drive for a few months at a
Oof.
time in America, and then come back to Southeast Asia, and then go back and
Right.
forth and back and
Yeah.
forth and back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why my sleep cycle's all screwed up.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
all mess.
exactly.
It's all mess.
Wow. Yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
yeah.
Mm.
So, but
Wow, that's so interesting, Harry.
it is well, Southeast Asia, being among Southeast Asian Muslims was another part of the puzzle of
Well,
why I
we're gonna,
became Muslim
inshallah,
because
yeah, yeah, inshallah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, because that's a really interesting piece of the puzzle. Because my family and I are thinking about relocating to Southeast Asia because of the Muslim population.
mm,
There's nobody. Obviously, we live in Italy. There's like, there's a very small,
five
like,
Muslims.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. No, alhamdulillah, there's a few more than that, but it's, the Bangladeshi community, and they're very generous there. But we also love South. I resonate with that, what you said, coming back and forth between South Asia and the United States. My husband and I have done that for years and years and years as well. It's just, there's something about the culture here that we absolutely love. Things run smoothly. It's progressive in the sense of technology and innovation, but not in the sense of community and family and things like that. So we really, really
Mm,
appreciate that sort of, where you don't really have that. I mean, Italy is beautiful, obviously, but Italy has no innovation. It's mostly secular and predominantly secular.
mhm.
But anyway, so yeah, so we had the same sort of story coming back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, Southeast Asia is amazing. Yeah, I really like it here. So how did your path intersect with the MadMLukes? So you're a co-host there.
I am a co-host on the MadMLukes, and I'm also on X. Please give me a follow over on X at Mr. Harry198.
Yes,
Shameless
yes.
plug. Uh,
No, please.
how did I get?
I have a little
Well,
thing here. There we go. A little banner.
oh,
So
fantastic!
see, yeah, exactly.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Of course.
How did that get with the MadMLukes? Well, I had a YouTube channel a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
And originally it was just, I was like, you know what? I'm retired. I get paid money no matter what. I'm going to do a YouTube channel because people are always like, you're always talking about news and politics and nerd stuff. Do a YouTube channel. And it's like,
Right.
all right, I'm going to take you up on your offer. So
Yeah.
I did. And I did one video about Islam and why Islam is entering the West and why so many people are becoming Muslims. And I
Okay.
went from having like 200 subscribers to having a little over 3,000 in one day. And I was
Wow,
growing.
alhamdulillah. Yeah.
And then this was right around the time just before and after October 7th.
Oh,
So I
wow.
started saying what I really think, because
Yeah.
after I came back from Iraq and after I got out of the army, I started also, after Michael Scheuer, I also started reading things like the Israel Lobby and
Oh.
realizing how a certain Middle Eastern nation,
Mm.
possibly Qatar, but clearly not Qatar, and definitely not
Right.
Bahrain or
Right.
or Oman or Yemen, controls a
Right.
large amount of our American foreign policy.
Right.
And
Right.
I was saying this, I've been saying this for a long time, louder and
Hmm.
louder over the last decade. I've lost friends over that. I've had
Of
family
course.
removers, family block me over that. I've
Hmm.
had people say the worst things about me. Oh, you're not a real soldier. Oh, you're not a real veteran. Or you're not really a
Yeah.
patriotic American, because I question what's
Mm.
going on with a certain entity called Israel. Uh,
Right.
but you know, uh, my channel basically got shadow banned,
Right. Right. Right.
and
Yeah.
then I started doing TikTok, and I started blowing up on TikTok. And the problem with TikTok for me was two things. One, it was like a serious fitna machine. Like I had all these like
Oh.
hot young Indonesian chicks trying to hit me up, like,
Right.
"Hey, where you at? Can we meet in person?" I'm like, "Oh man,
No.
y'all are gonna pull me into something stupid." It's like,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just got remarried here. It's not
Yeah.
time
Please
for
don't.
number
Yeah.
two and number three. You're gonna have to ask my first wife permission first. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
you know. And then the other problem with TikTok too was I was getting into it with like feminists, and like they would
Oh
just,
gosh.
I would, I try to be like disagree with them in a civil way, and they were just really nasty. So I just started rage baiting them, and that was a fitna for me too, because I just want to meet. I just started just rage baiting them just to make them mad, just
Right.
thousands and thousands of hateful comments,
Oh
and
my
then
God, that's so funny.
the final problem for me with TikTok was. Yeah, so they somehow, apparently, the IDF had cybersecurity units 2 years ago where they were trolling around on TikTok and stealing people's debit card information. This happened to several people on TikTok that I
Oh
was working with at the
wow.
time, who were pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-occupation, anti-genocide. Uh,
Hmm.
they stole our information and did all kinds of
Whoa.
nefarious bank transfers with it, as
Oh
best we can tell.
wow.
Yeah, so like I was in here in Jakarta, and then I look at my bank statement. It says you have a charge for $69.95 at a Dick's Sporting Goods in Nebraska, and I'm like, how, what? And
Hmm.
that's when I realized they
Wow.
stole my debit card, and it took me like
Mm.
2 months to get convince the bank to turn my bank account back on, that I wasn't a
Oh
scammer.
wow.
I had to like spend like hours on the phone with security experts. It was nuts. But basically, the IDF, by doing stuff like that, shut down my bank account and the bank account of other
For
people
months. Wow.
for months. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh, so basically, that was it for me with TikTok. And then
Yeah.
there was what was the final thing? So I just said I walked away from social media for a few months, and then
Smart.
I reached out to somebody that said, "Hey, you should get in contact with the MadMLukes. They're cool dudes." And then I got in their show. I went in the studio. I met them. They're cool dudes. And so they had been shadow banned too. They're a much bigger show than I am, but they were also
Okay.
shadow banned. They're about your size show on YouTube.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I just stayed off them, and now I'm one of their contributors. I'm one of I'm one of their peoples. That's how it
One of
worked
their
out.
peeps. Very
I'm
cool.
one of the
Alhamdulillah.
peeps.
Wow. Wow, that's so interesting. Okay, wow. So you have a social, and I follow you on. We follow each other obviously on Twitter, so that's really cool. Um, so and
Yeah,
I
I've grown
guess
a
the
lot on Twitter.
yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you've blown up on Twitter. That's awesome. Alhamdulillah. And then when you get the haters, you're doing something right.
I got a lot of haters. I got a lot of haters. Everybody thinks the pro Giuliani people think I'm an Assadist, and the pro Assad people think I'm a Giuliani supporter. I've got all
It's
kinds of
so
hate.
interesting. It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
It's such
that's
an
bizarre.
interesting. It is. Alhamdulillah, I've been very, very lucky with the community on YouTube here. It's been amazing, and on Twitter, everybody's been amazing. But it'll just be a few weeks of just this, like, just people are just, I mean, I don't know if it's a mental health issue, like there's something's going on. Like it's been weird. It's been been a bit weird. We've gotten hit by the same person, which I think is absolutely hilarious. I was like, oh, he's getting you too. I'm like, okay, I feel better about that. I'm like, we're obviously on the
Which
right
person
track.
is
If you,
that?
I won't say his name. I'll tell you later after the pod. But yeah,
Oh, well,
it's
I probably know him.
you do, yeah, yeah, for sure, you know him. It was a couple weeks ago. He was hammering you pretty hard, so I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Um, it makes me. People are like, don't worry about the trolls or the haters, and I'm like, it emboldens me. Like it really makes me like I'm on the right path. People hate like people who like it even says in the Quran, like people will run away from the truth. Like they'll absolutely like literally turn and run like if they see the truth. And it's like they lose their mind. And Instagram's even worse. I can't even I didn't know
Oh,
anything
it's
about I don't
terrible.
oh it's terrible. It's absolutely I stopped posting on Instagram for a couple years. And then I started posting again recently. But yeah, Instagram with the feminism and the manifestation girls. Oh my gosh, sis. Oh my goodness. I can't. And I was also like a yoga girl, so like all that stuff was like very relevant in my life for a long time. And then once you start like what is happening? Like you cannot manifest a Range Rover. Like that's not possible. That's not how it works, you know. So I had to like unfollow these people, and then once you unfollow them, they unfollow you, and it's just
Oh,
like it's wild. It's a wild time over there on the good old
oh man.
IG. Yeah. So, what part of American life you haven't been in the States for very like when was the last time you were living permanently in the United States?
Well, I come back about 2 or 3 times a year, but the last time I was living permanently, it was maybe
Hmm.
3, 4 years ago.
Oh, okay, so not too
Yeah.
long ago. So I'm curious to know
No,
what
I
part
come
of
back all the time.
okay, yeah, for sure. Interesting. What part of American life did Islam interrupt for you, and how did you adjust to that?
Oh boy. Actually, most of my friends have been surprisingly accepting and
Oh,
supportive of me becoming Muslim. I didn't lose a whole lot of friends or
alhamdulillah.
family over that. Oddly enough, I've lost way more friends over hating on Israel.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, that tells you a lot about where America is. Um,
Yeah.
Hopefully, it won't be that way in 10 years, but it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Inshallah.
I
Yeah.
That was the number one thing. The other thing too was, well, I got divorced.
Okay.
I mean, that wasn't the only reason. There was a lot of reasons why I got divorced, but that was maybe we'll say that was the cherry on top. And then
Okay.
had to get remarried. Yeah,
Right.
and I think it's much better. I'm really glad that the divorce happened. That was not a good marriage,
Right.
and the marriage I have now is much better. And I'm actually married to a
Alhamdulillah.
Muslim woman. We're working
Alhamdulillah.
on starting a family, and just uh,
Oh, wonderful.
hardest thing about being an American and a Muslim has been trying to reconcile my American identity with the Muslim identity. And
Right.
there was a show. I was on a show on Southeast Asia Today, and I said that, and what I said to the person was, "Man, when I became Muslim, I wasn't sure. Am I American still? Am I Texan now? Am I Arab now? Am I Indonesian now?" And they edited it out to make it look like I said I'm Indonesian now, and I'm like, I didn't actually say that to TV show, but
But that's
you
kind of
know,
cool, though. They're all like, "Yes, you are."
yay, he's here. We have a white man who's Indonesian
That's
now. Yeah, no, I thought that was funny. I didn't say
that's
that at
awesome.
all, but um, actually, I was kind of annoyed by that. I was like, "How dare you
Yeah.
say I'm not American?" I was a little bit
Right.
annoyed with
Right.
her for doing that. I'm
That's
not
good
gonna
though. That
lie.
means it's something still in you that it's like, no, I want to identify as an American and as a Muslim American. I think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. You see that coming to my journey to Islam was slow
Yeah.
because when I was Eastern Orthodox as a convert to Eastern Orthodox, that kind of gave me a sense of the things that can go wrong.
Mm,
Converts to Eastern Orthodoxy have a lot of the same problems that converts to Islam have.
okay.
First of all, they're very similar religions in that they both have an Eastern sense of internal struggle, spiritual struggle. We call it
Mm,
jihad; they call it spiritual warfare.
Oh,
But
interesting.
the primary essence of jihad is, of course, internal, not just running around with a scimitar and cutting people's heads off.
Right.
Uh, the primary source of jihad is actually this internal struggle right here, tasawwuf,
Right.
cleaning yourself
Okay.
spiritually, changing your character, resisting sin.
Right.
So in that sense, Eastern Orthodoxy and Islam are very similar.
Interesting.
But what happens when people become Eastern Orthodox converts is they go through the same thing that people go through when they become Muslim converts. It's like, who am I now? Am I Russian? Am I Greek? Am I
Mm-hmm.
Ukrainian? Am I
Right.
Coptic? What am I? And then people
Mm-hmm.
also, when they become Eastern Orthodox, they have a problem with getting married. And it's like, oh, you guys are incels. You can't find anybody. It's like, it's kind of hard for me to find a pious Orthodox girl as a white convert. You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
do I go marry a Russian girl and have this huge cultural like chasm that is hard to
Right.
deal with? Do I marry a non-Orthodox girl? Okay, well, if I marry a Catholic girl and she's really serious about her faith, she's going to try and get me to become Catholic and try and make the kids Catholic. And if
Right.
she's not a serious Catholic girl and she's just nominally Catholic, is she going to be a virgin on her wedding night? Is she going to be
Right.
well behaved? Is she going to take this seriously? You know, so it's like there's
Totally.
all
Yeah.
these kinds of problems that converts face that they face
Yeah.
when they become Eastern Orthodox as well. So when I became Muslim, I made a decision not to burn myself out because
Smart. Yeah.
just as the Salafis I get a lot of converts who go really crazy and start thinking they're themselves Arabic and they start alienating everyone and they're really
Mm-hmm.
aggressive and really, this is wrong, this is wrong, kafir, mudafid, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you've been Muslim for 6 months and you think you're
Yeah.
Arab now. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Um, in the same sense, when I was a teenager and getting
Mm-hmm.
into Eastern Orthodoxy, I was the Eastern Orthodox convert version of these nerds that become hardcore Salafi.
Oh,
6 months, I was like,
interesting.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was the Eastern Orthodox version of that. And
Okay. So
when
you'd
I
already
look
had
back,
that.
okay,
Okay.
yes, and when I look back, why was I think, well, you're a religious studies major, so let me put it to you this way. I'm going to make this really interesting for you. You tell me if you've seen this and you've made this connection,
Okay.
because I don't see anybody making this connection.
Okay.
But I see, people talk about Wahhabism. Daniel Hakikachu had I follow him. We
Mm-hmm.
follow each other on X.
Oh, that's
He
nice.
just did great. He just did a great documentary about Wahhabism. I'm going to make this
Oh,
connection
interesting.
for you.
Okay.
Um, the Russian Orthodox Church abroad was founded by people fleeing from communist Russia.
Right.
The Tsar fell, communism took over, they ran away. They came to America. It is a church it's less weird now than the people I still talk to. But when I was
Mm-hmm.
in, it was a church full of second and third generation Russians who had fled the Soviet Union, then
Mm-hmm.
people who came over after the Soviet Union fell, during and after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Mm.
Okay. And it was filled with people like me who came from broken homes, who are converts that come from broken
Mm.
homes, or older converts who usually came from Catholic backgrounds who were traumatized by the changes in the Catholic Church after Vatican II.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then we look at, let's go to the Old Testament, or go to the Bible, the New Testament. Who are the Pharisees and Sadducees? They are this
Mm.
hyper aggressive, nitpickety, paranoid, angry, bitter group of people who are
Okay.
dealing with what? What's going on at that time? Roman occupation,
Oh, interesting.
disintegration of their
Okay.
society. Okay. So then let's go
Oh.
talk about
Mm.
the Salafis. Okay. Who are the
Right.
Salafis? What is the origin of Wahhabism? What was going on in the Arabian
Mm.
Peninsula? It was the Ottoman Empire
Interesting.
controlling and dominating
Wow.
them, right?
Right.
And then towards the end of the Ottoman Empire, it wasn't a nice place. Not as
Yeah.
nice as it was before. It was a lot
Right.
more authoritarian and corrupt.
Right.
So all these things, all these groups,
Mm.
I just see this tendency
Right.
wherever people are from broken families, broken societies, occupied by foreign powers, or loss of an empire, all these kinds of things
Right.
seem to create this sort of paranoid, angry, reactionary mentality. We'll just call it the Pharisaic mindset. I don't know if you've noticed that as a religious studies major or come across
Right.
any literature.
I haven't because I really haven't, no. And I don't know, I didn't know why the Salafis were like so intense at times. Especially, I mean, Twitter's not like a real place. I mean, it is a real place, but it's also not a real place. So when they come at you, it's kind of like, okay, like I don't see it that way. So, but I appreciate the information. Like I'll process that and tuck that away for when when I'm ready for it. But so no, I didn't know that, but I do see the connection now that you say that. That's very, very interesting. Because I'm very fascinated by that. I don't know anything about, like, I'm like a fresh, like it's like been like 565 days. Like I really don't know that much about it. Um, in fact, I know like the spectrum, Wahhabism, Salafism, and then like Sufi, and like it seems to be like always a problem between the two, or
They always
the
beefing, man.
spectrum. Yeah, it's weird. It's unfortunate because like we're all like, inshallah, we all believe in the same thing, and Tawheed, and like there's so much potential, but yet we get, and I know that's it's supposed to, breaking into sex and stuff, and that's how it's supposed to happen, but it's annoying when you see it in real life. You're like, no, don't do this.
I've
Why?
been I became Sufi about 7, 8 months ago. I took bayat with Sheikh
Oh,
Mehmet, and even before I was Sufi, the people who would always unfriend me, unfollow me, always get up in my case were always Salafis. Now,
I
I don't
know,
want to
it's
hate on
weird.
all the Salafis because when I
Of
became
course.
Muslim, Salafis were also there to always help me and be kind and
That's
give me
right.
stuff and take care of me. So
Yes,
I got to give the Salafis credit where credit is due.
of
Like they are,
course.
a lot of
Yep.
them are really good people, you
Yep.
know. But the Salafis that I relate to the most that all say they went through this phase where they themselves were like really extreme, reactionary, and out of control.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah,
they all
absolutely.
understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you can see it online. And also a lot of people, when they embrace Islam, like you said, that's how we started the conversation, is that they really go hardcore. Like really, like I was friends with a girl at Berkeley, and she became Muslim, and she's like, I'm gonna go hella Wahhabi. And I was like, what? What is that? What do you mean? Like she's like, like no touching, no nothing, no, I'm gonna wear a niqab. I'm like, oh wow, okay, like that seems like really extreme, but okay. Like I just didn't really understand why you would want to go that way. Like I'm like, I'm not
Right,
like like
right.
I'm pretty easygoing, like I'm pretty chill. So I'm just like, I don't know like why somebody would want to. I get it though, like you want to learn all the rules and what to do and what not to do, but I'm always like, you have to give yourself some grace and like be merciful to yourself too. So, um, yeah, that's really, really Paul Williams, when he was having from Blogging Theology, he had an issue. He was sort of, I don't know, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I've watched a video where he's talking, really struggling in his Islam, and the Salafis are the ones that really helped him pull him back into the fold. So there
Hmm.
are good Salafi brothers out there for sure, for sure.
For
Can't
sure.
hate
We're
everybody.
not demonizing all Salafis. No, definitely not.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. So you're a Sufi. So because I get, anytime I say anything about Sufism on Twitter, they're right there, man. They're right there. It's like they don't miss a beat. Like, what about the
Oh,
Burda?
man.
No, you're Bida. You're a Bida. And
These
then
are
the
your.
girl, you're not thinking about being a Sufi, are you? It's like,
I have. I already did. It's like, I, I guess it kind of makes sense that I would be eventually get invited into Sufism and just fall right
yeah.
into it. Years ago, I was trying to find out the difference between Sufis and Salafis, so I'd watch a lot of Nur Muhammad, the Mohammedan Way videos from Sheikh Nurjan in Canada,
Okay.
and I was
Okay.
also comparing that with the Asim Al Hakim types on YouTube and trying to
Oh, yeah.
compare and contrast these guys. I'm like, just trying to figure out what's the difference, how do they overlap, how are they different, and
Yeah.
then also growing up as a kid, my dad had all kinds of books on the like remote viewing, and I was really
Right.
interested in the Loch Ness. I was interested in all kinds of
Right.
wild stuff like uh, you know uh, energy and this kind of stuff. So
Right.
it makes sense that
Right.
I eventually got called into Sufism. I've
It,
always had an
yeah.
interest in that kind of esoteric weird stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally relate to that as well. Like we were talking, I have a group chat with a bunch of revert sisters, and we were talking about trees, and I said, well, I'm a tree hugger when it comes to like when it comes down to it. I love tree. Like I, she's like, well, do you say salam to the trees? I'm like, yeah, of course I say salam. She's like, okay, and it's like, so it's just we all have different ideas. And there's do you follow the Sufi? He does Sufi cartoons on Twitter. I
Yeah,
don't know if you follow
I
him.
follow him. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
follow him on
Okay.
Twitter, but I get his emails. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he had
Yeah,
done
I know who it
something
is.
about yeah, about trees having not I don't think he said trees have souls, but he said that something about the unseen world. And I said, I'm 100% not advocating for the use of psychedelics. I said, but if anybody has used psychedelics, they know that this is true. He's like, just he put the emoji with the straight face. He's like, like I can't say anything. But I'm like,
I have used
people,
psychedelics, and I found that
right,
interesting before I became Muslim, and
right,
I did
obviously, yeah.
psychedelics as a Muslim,
Oh,
and I
interesting.
can confirm there is some matchup there. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
ayahuasca about
Oh, yeah.
let's say I did ayahuasca a year and a half ago, and the
Oh, cool.
reason
Where
I
did you
did it
go?
was I went to Peru.
Oh, cool. Me
Uh,
too. Yeah, I did.
yeah,
Yeah, years ago.
I
Before I
actually.
was Muslim, but.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I think the reason I did it as a Muslim was
Mhm.
because I had wanted to do it before I was Muslim, but always had an interest
Mhm.
in psychedelics and Islam because
Totally.
the psychedelics community in Islam seemed to have like the most consistent worldview with reality based on science, and
Right.
all the people who are like daring to go against materialism, all the scientists that actually are real scientists that dare to go against materialism.
Right.
Islam and the psychedelic community seem to have the most consistent answer that matches up with like those kinds of people,
Yep. Yep.
So
Totally.
I found that fascinating, and then I had
Mm.
an opportunity to do it as part of a veterans retreat a year and a half
Oh,
ago,
cool. Very good.
and I said, okay, I'm going to try this out.
Yep.
And I'm also going to be a Muslim guinea pig because I'd seen a lot of Muslims are doing this now or had done
Oh,
a
really?
lot, but
Oh,
there are a
interesting.
lot there. There's a
Enough.
significant number. Enough.
Mm.
So I was just like, all right, I'm going to go be a guinea pig for Muslim science. And it was actually just 2-3 days ago that I was talking to on the MadMLukes about this, and I finally
Oh,
shared the
cool.
full story with them. I had to let Sheikh Amir, kind of give me some pushback, and basically, I went to Peru, did this experience, and I think there's some really beautiful things about it, but I also think there's some really problematic things about it.
Yeah.
Um, the Shipibo Indians are beautiful people, but they are not Muslims. They have their understanding of Allah, of God, of the
Yeah.
universe, and everything, and it's not ours.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
so I mean, I respect them, I love them, but I
Yeah.
asked the Shipibo Indians, I said to the translators, like, could you use this in another context that's not Shipibo Indian? Could we use this as Muslims? Could we use it Christians or Jews or any? I said, yeah, it could be used in another context. And this is just, I'm not a scholar, I'm not Sheikh, I can't give fatwas on this.
Of
I
course. Yeah.
do think there could be a role for psychedelics in Islam, but
Interesting.
it'd be very limited, and I don't think you should do it in a non-Muslim context, and it would have to be through a
Right.
proper guidance of somebody who's trained and knows what they're doing. Because
Yeah.
when you're going into that realm, you're opening, and if you're not prepared, you're opening yourself up to the
Yeah.
possibility of demonic attacks. You really are.
100%.
An
Yeah.
attachment,
Yeah.
it's very
100%.
dangerous.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I did mine actually right before. It was interesting in November of 2022, I guess. And it was interesting. It was such an incredible experience, alhamdulillah. And then I realized at that point, days after, I was like, I have to, because I knew I had to start speaking my truth, which I know sounds so liberal to say. But what that means was, is I had to stop wanting to become Muslim and actually become Muslim. And I knew that, and it had been 10
Mm,
years. It had been 10 years that I was praying, like, please let me become Muslim. Please, I really want to do this. But
that's
everybody
rough.
around me was like, no, no, no. Like, this is a cult. You're brainwashed. You're obsessed. I was like, everything, everybody around me. So I had that experience. And then I was like, I have to do it. Like, it was such an like a powerful experience that I was like, I have to do this. And I started praying more regularly. And then Ramadan came around in March or whatever it was, and I was living in Albania, which is a predominantly Muslim country. And I was like,
Hmm.
I just said to my family, I'm like, I'm going to do Ramadan. And they're like, okay. I'm like, I'm fasting the whole month. They're like, okay. I'm like, I'm not taking no for an answer this time. Like, I'm really like, call me what you want, do whatever. Like, I'm doing this. And they're like, oh, okay. So she's serious this time. Because I've been talking about it for 10 years. Like, and they always push back and they never push back. And so that really led me, that experience, the ayahuasca experience really led me to being like, I'm doing this. Alhamdulillah. Such
That's
an
exactly what I
interesting.
told Sheikh Amir.
Yeah,
I
it's
said,
insane. Yeah.
the tendency of ayahuasca in particular is that it either is so terrifying that it chases people back to Islam, or it's so wonderful that it draws people closer with love. It really does push
Really,
people back to Islam.
I bet it does. Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's such a power. And people don't understand. Like psychedelic, it's this. Like I was just with family in the United States, and I was like, well, ayahuasca is a little bit different than, you know, other
LSD,
psychod.
not the
Yeah,
same
LSD, or we were talking about not the same thing, or mushrooms. And my stepdad's like, no, it's the same. I'm like, no, it's not. Like they're not. It's not the same. And he's like, no, it is. I'm like, have you done ayahuasca? He's like, no. I'm like, then you don't know. Like you have to try it
Well, see,
before you know. And I was trying to explain to him the differences, and he's just like, "Oh, that's really." And he did end up coming around because he's a smart guy. But like, he's like, "Oh, that's really interesting." The way I explained it to him, he's like, "Oh, okay, okay." So it kind of piqued his interest. Not that he's going to go to Peru anytime soon, but at least he knows it's not the exact same
no,
thing
no,
as
please,
LSD
fellow
or
Muslims,
mushrooms.
don't go to Peru. If you're already
Yeah,
Muslim, you don't have
please
to go.
don't. Yeah,
You're fine.
yeah. This is
You're
not
right
an
where you need to be.
advertisement. Yeah, this is not an advertisement. This is just a personal anecdote. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I think
It's a
Sheikh.
powerful medicine. Yeah.
It is. I think that I get a little bit annoyed when some sheikhs and scholars just say it's like Hummer, just like alcohol, or they just
Right. It's not.
automatically dismiss it. I think Sheikh Nurjan, over at the Mohammedan Way, he has the best answer that I think is the most. I think is this is my opinion. I think it's the best answer, where he says, the reason I don't recommend ayahuasca is because you're basically going without training, without preparation into that realm, and you can have
Right.
people attack you. And that,
Yeah.
I think he has the best understanding of it. I don't think it's an accident that after I did ayahuasca that I found Sufism and I was invited into it. I
Right,
don't
right,
think that's an
right,
accident.
right. And I don't think that the way it worked out for me as well is it's not by accident. Because everything is
No.
nothing's by accident, right? They're not, I mean, it was November to March, like mid November. I went to Peru, and by March I was fasting 30 days a week, 30 days Ramadan, and praying and tahajjud and all this stuff, and that was it. Like I was in, like I was like, I'm never leaving this religion. Like I am here, and if you guys don't like it, that's not my problem. Like that's a you problem,
Right.
And my family's
Yes.
like, okay, we're adapting to this, right? So alhamdulillah for them. Um, yeah, that's and I think Imam Tom has talked about he's had an ayahuasca experience as well.
Mm,
Yeah,
I
he's
did.
talked about that on a
Okay.
podcast before. Although he's kind of off the grid at the moment, but so you talked about a little
Where
bit
has he
about,
been?
well, because of the whole election in the United States. So he left Twitter, and then now he's with Yakin and in Texas, and yeah, so I guess I don't know what he's doing, but inshallah he comes back because he's an amazing person, and I've learned a lot from him. So yeah, and he could probably share, and that's the thing, like you said, preparation. You have an imam, he can prep people on this healing medicine. So anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. Inshallah. We could
Other
probably talk
podcast.
about that. Yeah. So you talked about being a white guy in Indonesia. What did whiteness mean to you before you converted to Islam?
This is so funny to me. I've just never thought of myself as like I'm white.
Yeah, I'm a
In
white
my
man.
entire
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
I'm a white
yeah.
man. I just
That's
say it as a
right.
joke. Only
Right,
as a
of
joke have
course.
I ever thought. I just
Yeah.
I when the first time Trump got elected, I got up and would tell my liberal friends or my black friends, I'd be like, I just want you to know it is great to be alive as a white man in Donald Trump's America. I just want you to know that.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean
Yeah, I
anything
know.
to me.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
well, first of all, my ancestors are all Irish Scotch people.
Right. I
You
was gonna
know,
say, yeah.
yeah, Elif is an Irish. You want to see where
It's an
Elif
Irish.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go to Tennessee. It's like people rednecks who own Christmas Tree Farms or Elif Motors or Elif
Right.
Pastor Elif or you know like
Yeah.
we weren't considered white 100 years ago.
I know.
So
That's
when
the
people
crazy
are like,
part.
you got white privilege. I'm like, I wasn't considered white to 100
Right.
years ago, 200 years ago. Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah,
So, like,
absolutely.
I've never looked down on black people. I've
I know.
never hated Mexicans. I almost married a couple of them. I've never hated. I've never. I've never had anything against. I've never had
Right.
anything against Italians. I've never had
Right.
anything against. Uh, I mean, I guess you could say I had a thing against not Arabs, but against Muslims for a while because I
Right.
post 9/11 kid. I didn't like Islam, but
Right.
as for like brown people just because they're Middle Eastern, no, not really. I don't.
Right.
I just like it's like when people like I think the white supremacists and the far left people that are like you're white to me it's just so stupid because white is
Yeah.
changed as a definition. You weren't
Totally.
white. You were
Right.
Italian. You weren't white a
That's
hundred
right.
years ago either.
That's right.
So it's like what is
Literally.
this thing? We're
I
just
know.
making
It's so
stuff up.
bizarre.
We're
Well, it's
just making
also a
stuff.
way to divide us, right? It's very like neoliberalism, right? So it's like you have to
Uh,
divide everybody by gender, sex, religion, whiteness, color of your skin. Like, yeah, it's a very liberal term. And it drives me crazy. It's like, there's a book by Virginia Dominguez. It's wonderfully written. And it's called White by Definition. And it talks about like the one drop rule in the South in the United States and how that was manipulated. I mean, like, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre to me, like that people
Super
still talk
bizarre.
like, and they people invest a lot into that. And in the United States, I was a social worker, and oh my gosh, so social school was like, you're a white woman, you're a heterosexual woman. It's like, okay, yes, and you're
And
basically the devil. It's like your husband, oh, it was just horrific. It was like the word. I was like, aren't we here to help people? They're like, you don't want to help people. Like, okay, I don't. It's like, you don't want to. You want to, get by on your white privilege. I'm like, I do. Like, I was here to help the Syrian refugees, actually, but okay. Yeah, it was a really rough experience, and
oh my god,
yeah, what
Astaghfirullah.
was yeah, astaghfirullah. It was really brutal. But this whole idea of whiteness is just like you don't even think about it. It's like, well, that's a privilege for you. I'm like, okay, like, okay. Do you
I
think about like
Muslims Muslims
bizarre?
have been hoodwinked. A lot of the millennial and Gen Z Muslims in America got hoodwinked into that stuff. I've been
Oh
trying to
no, they
warn them
really
for a
did
long, even
hoodwinked.
before I became
Yeah.
Muslim. Because you know what it is. This is what I would call it reverse colonialism. And they're like, "What do you mean reverse
Interesting.
colonialism?" And I say to them, I just tell them straight up, and they get infuriated when I say
Of
this.
course.
But a lot of people have over time come to see what I'm talking about, which
Mm-hmm.
is the same sorts of people in establishment, in positions of high ranking power that
Yeah.
lied to us about who you are and sent
Yes.
rednecks like me to Iraq and Afghanistan are now flooding the West with people like you, and
Mm-hmm.
they using a different news media outlet, both of which are funded by Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Pfizer. Oh, by the way, that
Mm-hmm.
news media outlet says the same things about me that my news media outlet, Fox News, told me about you. And what
Right.
both those news media outlets tell us about each other is that you're better than those people over there. You're enlightened. They're Neanderthals. You're good. They're bad. Your
Right.
values are superior and theirs are inferior.
Right.
And that is exactly how they get us to fight each other. And I
That's
said,
right.
you're being used as a form of reverse colonialism, being sent here in droves, being driven out because of this immigration crisis, because we're in your country invading it. So then you come over here. We come over here and destroy your country. So then you're coming in here by mass migration and taking our jobs. And that is exactly what these people want.
Right. 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 Right.
That's what they
And they
want,
hate that.
and
Yeah.
it's a divide and conquer strategy, just like the British
Absolutely.
used against Muslims and Hindus in India. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
it's a different
Absolutely.
format.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a different time period. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That's so crazy. What does it mean to be a man in the modern world, and how has Islam shaped that for you? You were a soldier, obviously. That's very manly, obviously. Then you were injured and had to basically be rehabbed, and now you live in Southeast Asia, where like you just said, you have the privilege on the top of the totem pole there. But that's not in Islam. Like we don't talk about that. Like, of course, we don't talk about race in Islam, even though there is racism. But like, how do you see manhood, especially compared to Southeast Asia, in relation to the United States? Because it seems
Mm.
to me that masculinity has taken a hit for a really long time in like there's an article, not it wasn't that recent, but fairly recent, where it says if you work out, then you might be a white supremacist. It's like if you're a gym bro, you might be
Jim
a
Rock.
you might be yeah you might be a Nazi. It's like what? Like I just testosterone, that's a good thing, right? So what do you
If
think
you don't
about?
want a woman with 100 body count, you might be a pedophile. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're into, yeah. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So what do
If
you
you're
think
into
about?
women that are under the age of 25, you might be a pedo. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Listen,
totally. Yeah. That's another thing.
uh,
Yeah. That's crazy.
you know, uh, listen, Islam is a very manly religion, but it
Mhm.
is what Islam does very well is that Islam is not feminist and it is not the red pill. Neither one of those
Right. I was going
paradigms
to ask you
match
about
with
that.
Islam.
Hmm. Right.
Islam is something different. Okay,
Yeah.
uh, I I have had to rebuild my life multiple times. I've done things like truck driving, spent a time doing commercial diving before I got it. My old
Oh,
injuries
cool.
came to the surface again. Did that for a while. I had to stop doing that. I mean, I've done a lot of, guy stuff my entire life. I've always been physically active. Even as an injured guy, I do what I can.
Yeah.
With a bad back, I still do what I can. Um, I, Islam has been much more supportive of it. I warn Muslims in America that are the born Muslim, been for a couple generations here. So,
Yeah.
born Muslims, but, been in America for second, third generation. I tell them, that, look, just as Christianity entered the Roman Empire and then got mixed in with paganism, and that's how we
Yeah.
have the Christianity to today, the councils of Nicaea and all that. Islam is getting mixed into the modern Roman Empire, aka America
Yeah.
and the West. It's mixing in with ideas like, what's the word for cross sectionalism between feminism, Islam, LGBT. What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, I don't know.
Intersectionality.
Oh,
Islam is
intersectional.
getting
Oh my
mixed in with
gosh.
feminism and
Right.
intersectionality, and it's you see especially with young ladies so
Yeah.
many ideas that are just nonsense. And now some of the Muslim bros are going in the reverse direction where they're taking their religion from Andrew Tate. And I appreciate Andrew Tate.
Right.
He said a
Right.
lot
Right.
of good
Right.
things that need to be said,
He has.
but
Yeah. Of course.
but he is not
But
a shaker or a scholar, and he
right.
himself knows he has admitted publicly he doesn't know what he's doing and he needs to learn. So, you know,
Yeah.
take what's good from somebody like that and discard what's bad. So
Exactly. Thank you.
Muslims need to figure out how to be more Muslim. And that
Right.
doesn't just apply to male female dynamic, it also applies to economics, politics, whatever. My
Yes.
politics has changed as a
Yeah.
Muslim. I am
Yeah.
still tend to lean on the conservative libertarian spectrum, but I'm not as hard over about politics like I was before. I'm more like, okay, well, what's good and what's bad, what works and
Yeah.
what doesn't, what's halal, what's haram. I have a much more nuanced understanding of politics that is not so hyper tribal now.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not
good.
like that anymore. So
Interesting.
the longer I am Muslim, the more I work on being a manly dude, following the Quran and Sunnah to the best of my ability. But also, it changes my politics, changes my outlook on how
Yeah.
I spend my money. You know,
Right.
and that's what Islam is. It's an all-encompassing thing. If you're
It
really
really
going to be a
is.
Muslim, it's about everything. It's not
It is.
about
Yeah.
just one thing. There's
Yeah.
no compartmentalization in Islam. Islam
No.
is everything.
Everything. I love that about that. I feel, and also it hasn't been secularized yet, right? And I think that that's where the feminism comes in and the red pill comes in. They're trying to secularize the religion and influence it through, politics and whatnot and consumerism. But I really feel like if we could hold on to our Islam in the purest sense that we understand it, at least, gaining knowledge, things like that. Because we cannot, because that's what the thing about Christianity. It's like, oh, I'm a Christian on Sundays, and yeah, I pray before I eat, and yeah, it's good enough, Hey, so, but it's like you're essentially, you know, an atheist. You're essentially compartmentalizing. You're one life here, and then your Sunday here, and I'm just like, I can't do it, man. Like, that's just not for me. Like, it has to be a whole worldview, right? And it changes your perspective on everything. Everything is tinted now with these glasses, with my sunglasses, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Everything has to be, has to be. Yeah, it's amazing, actually. Alhamdulillah.
Yes,
It's a
alhamdulillah, it
beautiful
is.
process. Yeah, and it should be like that. Because I was going to ask you about the red pill, and Muslim men. Helpful awakening, or is a dangerous distortion? The red pill, is it helpful or is it harmful?
Well, you could say it like this: becoming Eastern Orthodox was kind of like my gateway drug to eventually lead me to Islam. It probably kept
Interesting.
me out of drugs, sex, and rock and roll too much in
Right.
middle school, and kept me away from that. Or I didn't get involved as much of that kind of stuff as I would have if I hadn't been Orthodox.
Right.
Um, but it was a good starting point that led me to Islam, alhamdulillah. So I'm very
Right.
grateful to the Orthodox Church and all the wonderful Orthodox Christians I've known over the years. I don't
Right.
curse
Right.
that
Right.
tide. Uh, the red pill is a necessary, it is a necessary correction, but the red pill also goes too far. Um, the good thing about the red pill, because it's men, is that red pill men have one thing and one attribute that feminists, feminized, hyper aggressive third wave feminists don't have. There's one key
Mm-hmm.
difference between the red pill and the feminist movement is that red pillars believe in this magical thing called accountability. The feminists do not.
Yeah, they do not. That's a really good point. Wow, alhamdulillah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they get to be little girls for the rest of their lives. It's such a bizarre.
Right.
It's so weird to me. It's so bizarre. And
Little princesses.
little princesses. And I mean, we all want to be treated like a princess. I get it, but you also have to be accountable. Like you can have a cupcake at the end of the day, but you also have to work really hard. You have to bake the cupcake yourself. There you have to be accountable, not only to yourself, but to your family, your parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, you have to be accountable. But yeah, modern third wave feminism is not like that. That's so interesting. It's very,
Not
very
at all.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the red pillar Andrew Tates of the world. One thing you
Yeah.
could say about Andrew Tate, whether you like him or not, is he
Yeah.
does at least have a sense of, oh, sometimes I'm wrong and I need to fix myself.
Yeah.
The women in feminism don't have that at all, and so that is why they are forever stuck. There's no sense reasoning with them. There's no
No.
dialoguing with them. They
No.
are not reasonable,
No.
rational,
No.
respectful.
Right.
They're not going to
Absolutely.
listen. Give up.
No. They're always right. They're always
They're
right. That's
always
the
right.
problem. They're always right.
Serious problem.
It is
Serious
a serious
problem.
problem. And that's true. Like, they can't admit when they're wrong. And that's a big, big, and then it becomes as a sense of entitlement and also a sense of ingratitude, which I just can't stand. Like, it's so frustrating to be around, ungrateful
Super
people.
disrespectful.
It is
Yes.
disrespectful.
Always frustrating. When I look at the people like Nick Fuentes, people, the intersection
Mm-hmm.
between the politics of hating on, because the guy I grew up with as a stepfather was Jewish, and he was an
Oh, interesting.
atheist Jew,
Oh,
and he
right.
was a
Yeah.
vicious. He hated Christianity. He hated Christians. He
Oh,
hated Southerners.
interesting.
He was a he was an atheist. He was a Jewish atheist eugenicist who, his own words, he thought that the Nazis had the right idea, but they just didn't go about it the right way. In his own
Oof.
words, they should have killed all the handicapped and LGBT people
LGBT.
instead of the
Hmm.
smart, or all the handicapped people instead of the smart Jews like him. That was
Right.
his
Right.
exact
Right. Right.
word. And
Right.
that's how I knew from an early age that the Nazis are really like the Jews, or the
Mm.
Zionists are really like the Nazis in a lot of ways.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I also, out of that experience, um, I kind of went through kind of a Nick Fuentes phase myself. You know, I
Right.
when I was Orthodox, I wouldn't say I was as racial as Nick Fuentes,
Yeah.
but I understand where the Nick Fuentes and the Groyper crowd is coming from. I do understand
Right.
them. So
Yeah.
I foresee a lot of those guys eventually coming around to Islam as well. And
Inshallah.
when you
Yeah.
see Nick Fuentes having interfaces with Sneeko and they're having back and forth, but they're also really good friends, I think that's a positive sign of things in the coming future. Like I don't think these
Yeah, inshallah.
extreme gripers on X right now, with all of their extremism, will always be that way. I think a lot of them will move on.
Inshallah. Yeah, I hope
Inshallah.
so. I think, and that's the thing. Yeah, that's so fascinating. Yeah, I can also see it too. Like it's almost obvious, but it's not quite. They're not quite there yet. It's just interesting to see that they have all these right ideas, but they haven't. It's like Islam is still seen as something foreign. And it's like, no, it's like Catholicism is right, but no, but wait, this is like a better. This is Tawheed. This is the oneness of Allah. Like, so they don't really, yeah, it'll be interesting to see in the next, 3 to 5 years how that changes. But yeah, inshallah, they come over to Islam. Yeah.
I think some of them will. I think a lot of them will
I
actually
think I
because
think
they're
so.
gonna.
I think so too.
Because what's gonna happen is, yeah, there's some trad cath, yeah, there's Eastern Orthodoxy, but what they're gonna find is they're gonna start coming into bouncing into the problems with the Trinity.
Oh, I hope so.
They're
It's
gonna
problematic.
eventually sign it. It's a
Yeah.
deeply problem, and that was the clincher for me. And I was like,
Right.
before I became Muslim, this is maybe before I met. This is like over a decade. This is before I met my ex-wife. This is almost 11, 12 years ago now. It's right around the time I started going to Vietnam. I almost married a girl from Mexico who was like this
Oh.
hardcore evangelical Christian, hardcore kind of crazy evangelical Christian, but they weren't like normal mainline evangelicals. They were this kind. I would call it a cult. The cult would be.
Oh.
In fact, she later left this group. She told me so.
Really?
Uh, she went into something a little more mainline, less weird. But
Moderate. Yeah.
from that experience with talking to her and dialoguing with them, what I was realizing is that a lot of things I was had to go back and look at the whole story of the early church, and then these
Right.
things like the iconoclast controversies,
Right.
and that started. Then I eventually started looking at like Bart D. Ehrman, and then I started looking at
He's a big one. Yeah.
he's a big one, and
Yeah.
it just slowly but surely it was like. And it was sad when I realized that too, because believing in the Trinity, believing that Jesus was God, that was
Yeah.
something that kept me alive.
It's wild. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
It's
it was
wild.
sad
Yeah.
when I realized something.
Yeah.
It
There's
was
always
like
that
kind of
moment
disorienting.
of, yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. It is sort of like, wait. So what? Who am I then? Right. And I think for a lot of people, like I have introduced Islam to my father, and he's very like no, but he said to my brother, who's also interested in Islam, he said, um, I can't be challenged because I'm afraid of losing my faith because this is everything that I know. And it's like, yeah, but it's not the truth. That's the problem. Like, so you believe in a lie. And that's like, I didn't say that to them, but I said that to my brother. I was like, but he believes in a lie. And so that is sort of it is disorienting. It's supposed to be disorienting. And then also it's like, so now what? Now what do I do? Right. And I think that's a beautiful process. It's a painful process, obviously. And especially like if you're young, it's like, okay, but if you're in the 70s, 60s and 70s, what are you going to do? Change your entire worldview? Learn to pray? Learn Arabic? I don't think so.
Well, this is kind of why Allah guides who He wills and He leads
Yeah.
astray who He wills. This is not a scholarly opinion. I'm not a sheikh or a scholar, but I
Right.
suspect for some people the reason Allah doesn't test them with that is because they can't handle it. And I'm not a
Right.
perennialist who says that all religions are equal, but I do wonder if perhaps Allah Almighty, in His infinite wisdom, allows certain people to be shielded from the choice, and He will judge them accordingly on Judgment Day. That is just a theory. That's just my personal thought. It's not a scholarly. I've shared that with sheikhs and scholars, and they're like, I don't know. So that this is just a Harry Ellis theory. It means nothing. I'm not even to me at 2.0. But I think that sometimes as reverts we get really upset when our families don't become Muslim, and it's important to remember that Allah's justice is perfect. So
Exactly. Yeah.
he knows he has already, he can figure out what's the right place, what's right for your family on the other
Yeah.
side,
Yeah,
and he will
totally.
be a
And
completely just and fair. He's not going to destroy
yeah.
your family to hellfire for stupid reasons.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
he's
And that's the thing. It's like once you read the Quran at least once, because it takes you a while to, figure it out and really reflect on it and stuff. You're like, oh, okay. Like there's no compulsion in religion. There's no compulsion in it. Like there's no, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides who he wills. So it doesn't matter. And I talk about this channel on my channel all the time. It's like, obviously I'd want my whole family to be Muslim. Obviously. Like I want the best for them. Like I want to meet them in Jannah and like have that experience with them, obviously. But I know that's not also like gonna happen, right? Like I can't imagine that that would, I mean, of course, all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say is be and it is, right? For sure. But also, I don't think that that's, possible, right? Like I just don't think it's written in the cards for me, for the lack of a better saying. But, and it is what it is. I just would like family to accept it. Like, oh, you're Muslim. Okay, cool. Like, okay. And then now what? Let's go for dinner, as opposed to you're obsessed, you're in a cult, you're brainwashed, there's something wrong with you. Like, that's the problem, the interface of like, and I'm going to send you a Bible verse every day for the next 365 days.
oh, is that what you have to deal with?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So it's like, okay, like, you know what I mean? So that's the problem. It's like, I really like, people are like, oh, you hate Christians. I'm like, I don't hate Christians.
No,
My entire
far from
family is
that.
Christian. Like I don't, right? I pray for them. Like I want them to be guided to Islam, but like I don't hate Christians. People I love are Christian. Like I don't hate Christians at all. Do I wish that they were guided? Yes. Do I think that they're also misguided? Yes. And now what? Next question. Like there's nothing I can do about it. If there is, they would be Muslim already. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, even Tamia, if it's any consolation or comfort, even Tamia, who was one of the greatest early scholars of Islam,
mm, mm-hmm.
not the earliest of early scholars, but later scholar, but he's a great scholar, and he thought that hellfire wasn't eternal for most people.
Oh,
Paraphrasing,
interesting.
yeah,
Oh.
because he says he thought the verses about hellfire and the forever really meant just for a very long time,
Oh,
comparatively.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So he thought,
Interesting.
it's interesting, he thought that later in his life. Paul Williams talks about that on his channel on Blogging Theology.
I love that channel.
Daniel Hakajikachu also mentioned that. So I kind of take comfort in that even if Allah does send some of my friends and family to hellfire, it probably won't be forever, according to
Forever.
even to me. And that's not the
Interesting.
majority opinion of scholars, but even to me, it was a pretty great scholar, so I take comfort in
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Well, and also knowing that it's not up to you, right? Like that's also another thing. So you don't have to like you don't have to be so desperate around your family. Like that's also the sort of such a relief in that, with hardship comes ease. Your hardship you have to deal with Bible verses being texted to you every day and also provoking you in ways that are, just not fun to deal with. That's a test. But also the ease of knowing that it's not up to me anyway, right? Because if it was,
Right.
right? So there's an ease there. You're like, okay, I'll pray for you. I want the best for you, and then I'll leave the rest up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows better than I do, obviously. So it's like, okay, there's that sort of like once you understand that, you're like trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like for everything, then what do? You do your best and leave the outcome to him, right? Like, okay. He knows what I want. And okay, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. Okay. Alhamdulillah for everything. Always. So
It's for me. It's I'm not really around my family very often here. I'm in
yeah.
living the expat life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I am very much the. I wouldn't say I'm the only white person in a 5 square around here.
Yeah.
Actually, there's quite a few number of expats in this building, or
Oh, cool.
temporary workers, or
Mm,
foreign
nice.
workers here. But I am very much in the minority here,
Yeah.
and I'm comfortable with that. Not everybody's comfortable with living like that.
Yeah, for sure. So why Indonesia specifically and not other more popular like hijrah routes like Turkey or Egypt or the Gulf?
Well,
Why Turkey? Why Indo?
it was just it was mostly an accident discovering Indonesia because of my ex-wife who was Chinese and Christian. Um,
Right.
And it was just by coming here to meet her, it just sort of turned me on to Indonesia, which had never really been in my mind
Oh,
before that.
interesting.
You know, um, it's also, uh, Malaysia has kind of gotten very expensive to immigrate to. It used to be for about
Wow.
$40,000 you could get a my visa,
Wow.
my second home visa. Now it's like
Yeah.
$250,000.
It's crazy. I know. It's so
It-
annoying.
well, they had too many people coming in here.
Right. Well, that's it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Indonesia, on the other hand, has a lot more space, and they're happy to take your
Mm.
money. So, for me, I came in through marriage. I, got remarried to my current wife, who's a conservative Javanese Muslim, two
Oh.
years ago. So, I soon after we got married, I got what's called a kitas, and
Nice.
we're now working on renewing it to get a full 5 year kitas called a kitap, ITAP now.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. So, will you ever be able to become an Indonesian citizen?
Um, I just permanent residency is fine by me.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Indonesia, permanent residency or a citizenship would require me to actually renounce my American citizenship, and I don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah. You also have to pay for that. Just find so
Yeah,
fascinating.
well,
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So they don't. They
you
only
know,
allow one citizenship.
yeah. I mean, I would understand that if I was going to run for political office in Indonesia, but I don't plan on doing that
Yeah. You
anytime
don't have
soon.
to. Yeah.
So,
Of course. Of course.
whatever. I
PR stuff for
suppose
sure.
if I won a lawsuit or won the lottery and got millions of dollars all of a sudden, maybe I would consider renouncing my citizenship for tax
Yeah.
purposes and becoming
Yeah. That's
Indonesian then.
right.
But there really isn't a lot of motivation for me to do that.
Well, especially if you get all the rights except for voting, and it's like, okay, well, I don't really, that is what it is. But yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, Indonesia, it's a beautiful country. I've been there once. Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
Where were
Although I
you?
wasn't Muslim. I was in Jakarta and then, but in Bali mostly because I was a
Hmm.
yoga girl, so
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Bali is
yeah.
beautiful.
It
Bali
is
is a beautiful
beautiful, but
place.
it's so crowded. It's so Denpasar and then out on the
Oh
beaches.
man.
It's like, oh my gosh, no, thank you. And I'm a city girl, and I'm just like, no, no thanks. Like I would never live in Bali. I mean, maybe Jakarta, I guess, but I'd have to go explore it a little bit more. Um,
I think for someone like you, there's another place that's really good called Yogyakarta, which
yes,
is
yes.
a very traditional Javanese city, which is actually a sultanate, believe it or not.
Hmm. Okay.
So Indonesia has an independent sultanate that's built into the fabric of their republic in
Okay.
Yogyakarta. The Sultan of Yogyakarta is the governor. So other provinces get governors changed every few years or so. Not that governor.
Oh,
Not that guy.
interesting.
He's the sultan. The sultan is the governor.
Oh, I got you. Right, right. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Oh, that's cool. It's a
Yes.
perpetual job. Wow. Nice
There's
to be the nice to
also.
be the Sultan.
Oh yeah, it was a great gig. I mean,
Yeah.
there's also in North Sumatra a place called Aceh, which has actual functioning Sharia law.
Right. That's right.
And
People have said on YouTube here on my channel, "Oh, this is where I live. Although you have to come see it." I was like, "Oh, that sounds amazing." Because there's mosques
oh,
and all. Yeah.
Indonesians
Or in
or
Aceh specifically.
I went to
Yeah, but
Aceh three
Indonesia.
years ago. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what people were saying. It's like, "Oh, you have to come see it. It's amazing here." I'm like, "Okay, inshallah, I can."
Are these reverts that moved to Aceh or
No,
what?
they're locals. They're locals. Yeah, born Muslim and yeah. Yeah, they
Okay,
just commented on my channel. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was like, wow, Aceh sounds amazing.
I
I
went there
also love the
3 years ago
tropics.
and I really loved it.
You liked it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great.
So what kind of did you have any like sort of romanticized ideas about Indonesia or I guess because you'd been to Southeast Asia many times before, so those sort of myths or ideas kind of went out the window your first trip. Because I was gonna say like, did they turn out to be
Hmm.
not true that you had these sort of romanticized? Oh, it'll be like this, and it's like it's not like that at all. Like the pollution was
No,
really sort of like, whoa, that's brutal. That was sort of
no.
unfortunate. Okay.
because I'd already been to Iraq and Guatemala, and then almost married a girl in North Mexico in a
Right.
town called Reynosa, right across the border from McAllen in Texas. I've
Wow.
already seen third world poverty. In fact, most of Southeast Asia is pretty tame compared
Oh my
to
gosh. India?
Iraq. Yeah,
Or
like
Iraq? I've never been to Iraq. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Iraq was pretty big mess during the years because of
For
all the
sure.
trash there were. Guatemala wasn't that bad. It was just really poor.
Yeah. I've been
Um,
to Guatemala. Yeah.
really poor.
Really poor.
North Mexico is just kind of dirty and kind of dangerous. Uh,
Yeah. Well, especially now. My goodness. It's crazy.
yeah, it was pretty wild. But no, the whole the cleanliness thing didn't really bother me. The air
Hmm.
pollution of Jakarta is not very good. But I have to keep this in perspective. It's where China was 10 years ago, and Jakarta is really going high full speed ahead on adopting EVs,
Oh,
and
interesting.
also people are moving further and further out into the burbs, and remote
Okay.
work's starting to become a thing, and people are
Interesting.
building other communities and other cities outside the edge of Jakarta area.
Mm.
So for me, it's kind of like a non-issue. In about 10 years, this is going to solve it. This problem's going to solve itself one way or the other, or
Yeah,
at least
for sure.
greatly reduce itself. But the problem, I don't think I really came with romanticized notions about Indonesia in
Hmm.
terms of much about anything. I was just kind of like, wow, this is a wild, chaotic place, and I like it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
it's like this
Yeah,
is kind of.
exactly.
It's like, I didn't really. I was
Yeah.
like, man, this is so much more interesting than being back in, uh, Central Texas. Man, this is way
Yeah.
more exciting. You know,
Yeah, for sure. I feel the
you
same
know,
way about Napoli. Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, wow, this is exciting. This is, yeah, it's pretty exciting. I totally understand that. That's
it's
hilarious.
alive. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jakarta
it's
is a very
alive.
alive
Yeah.
city. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
Kuala
thing.
Lumpur is like I was there last week visiting, and my dad came from Vietnam, and because he lives over in Vietnam as an expat,
So
he has
cool.
a Vietnamese
Yeah.
wife, and I have a Vietnamese half brother actually.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, he's about 12 now.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
that's
my dad
awesome.
got remarried, had another kid. My dad had a
Cool.
kid at 63 years old.
Good for him.
So, you
And
know,
that's what a blessing to be able to do that. Women, we got this such a short time frame, and men can do it till they're at least 63.
well,
As proved
older,
by
like
your father.
Sylvester Stallone was like
Oh,
73.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's another guy, actor guy. He's Italian. De Niro. He just had a baby too, or something like that. One of those guys.
Maybe it
Yeah.
wasn't. Maybe it was actually Al Pacino that had the
Oh,
baby.
Pacino. That's who it was. I knew
That's
it was
right, Al
Italian. Yeah,
Pacino.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean,
So.
KL was nice, but it's very sterile. It's like we're trying to
Oh.
be just like Singapore.
Oh,
That's the
that's good
kind
to
of vibe
know.
I get
Okay.
about KL, which is nothing wrong.
Interesting.
Singapore is an awesome town, and
Right.
KL is an awesome town. It's very
But
nice, it's clean, it's safe, but this place is alive. But one thing I want to say for your
mhm.
audience, because I know some of them are going to be reverts, especially for like I would say the Hydra passport bros like me. I am a Hydra passport bro.
Okay.
Um, guys, just they become Muslim, and then, I've talked to another guy you should have on the show. His name is Rob. He's in Canada. He's a revert too, and he
Oh yeah,
talks about.
Rob. Yeah, he's been on the channel.
Okay, so Rob
Yeah,
talks
Alhamdulillah
about
for him.
this,
Yeah.
and Rob and I are both simpatico about this situation where it's really hard for some reverts to really assimilate into a Muslim community in the West,
Oh, totally,
and
totally.
so like my Rob's way of dealing with this was like to go through a series of difficult marriages and eventually find a white revert Muslim girl. And
Right,
my
right.
strategy is just like, I have a different issue on race and culture. For me, as I
Mhm.
have a different background and a different mentality on that, I was just like, I'm going
Mhm.
full passport, bro. And
Right.
for me, with Rob's a great dude, and we
Yeah.
have a different way of approaching it. For me, and this is not for everybody. There's a lot of
Yeah.
dudes out there that want to do what Rob does. Okay,
Right.
but there's
For
also
sure.
if you want to come out and have an adventure in Southeast Asia and the Muslim parts like Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, you can find a great wife. I am going to say this though.
Yeah.
from personal experience, first marriage did not work out very well. And before I met my now current wife, I dodged some serious bullets.
Interesting.
There's
Well,
some
that
women
was
I
actually
almost
my
married
next
and dodged them.
question.
Yeah.
That's my next question. So, a culture, it was the culture clash, but please continue because I'm very interested in between the South Asian Muslim community and the revert community. You're part of both. You have a foot in both worlds and the culture clash. But please tell me the dodging of the bullets because I'm intrigued. I did a video on my channel here about the passport bros, which you see them all the time in Thailand, and I don't blame them. Like I even said it in the channel. I'm like the white girls from the West. Good luck getting a man that's a pious man. you know.
Well, in Thailand, the problem is that there's two different Thailands, and there's the
Oh yeah.
traditional Thailand that's
Oh my
normal,
gosh.
and then
Yeah.
there's the wild party Thailand that's just wild and out of control. If you're trying
Literally.
to
Yeah.
like settle down and have a wife, you want to avoid the wild party Thailand
You
at
want
all
to go to the
costs.
provinces. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You
For
want to go to
sure.
the provinces. If you are me here in Indonesia, and you're going to marry a Muslim, you have to understand that a lot of Muslims in Indonesia, for a variety of reasons, even though they're very polite to foreigners and they like Americans here,
Mm.
they are also skeptical and afraid of us. And so,
I would
if
understand
you
that.
are like me, when I was going through this process 3 years ago, where you are divorced or going through a divorce and you're trying to
Mm.
get remarried to a local Muslim girl, you are a little bit kind of like, what you doing? And
Yeah.
the reason that they feel that way is because they had a lot of Saudi guys come over here and take advantage of local girls and local families. Hey, here's a
Oh.
nice big dowry. I really love your daughter. They marry her, get her
Oh.
knocked up, and then they'd go back to Saudi and never come back. This happened a
Oh.
lot.
That's
And the
horrible.
Saudi government and the Indonesian government are still trying to sort out all the fathers and the paternity tests from all these
Oh
guys
wow.
who, over the last couple decades, came here and bounced. So,
Oh.
if you want to come here and you want to marry a local girl, go to the masjid and say, "Hey, Sheikh, I want to get married," or meet the local girls online. It's possible. I'm just telling you right now, you're going to deal with some static as a foreigner and a revert.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're gonna question you whether you're really serious or not. So be
Right.
prepared to get grilled.
Yeah, for sure. And
It's
as
not a
you
slam
should.
dunk.
Yeah, as you should. What are your intentions with my daughter exactly?
Yes.
How long have you been Muslim? Is this just like 3 weeks? Is this what this is? Like, what is happening here? Yeah. And they want to protect their women, which is what they're supposed to be doing. And I love that. That's a wonderful thing, you know.
It is a wonderful
You
thing.
want the best for your daughter, right? That's
Yes.
the thing. You don't want to get duped, right? That's a horrible feeling. And you have given up in many ways by accident, the rights. You have rights over your daughter, and your daughter has rights. You have these rights over each other, and it's like if I let this happen to her, then I've you know done something badly. It's terrible. It's terrible. I didn't know anything about that. That's really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. After I got divorced, before I got remarried, I did this process with a few different women, almost
Mhm.
marrying them. And I've got to say, in hindsight, I died. Some of them were just okay, but just wasn't really a good match. But I
Right.
also dodged some real bullets. Like some of them were like really bad, or their family situations were chaotic and crazy.
Oh,
And so,
yeah.
when you come over here as a foreigner,
Yeah.
you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really understand what you're getting into, and you're a
Right.
new Muslim. It can be. This is a really dicey proposition. So, like the whole passport hijrah bro thing.
Yeah.
Listen, guys. I'm just gonna put this out there because I know a lot of you are thinking about doing it. You DM me all the time asking me about how to get an Indonesia girl. This is not as easy as you think.
And nor should it be. It should not be a slam dunk. There is often at times a soft pressure to conform to local mannerisms, not just. Is that something that you have dealt with in Indonesia?
I have. The Indonesians are pretty tolerant of different cultures, in that Indonesia is a large multicultural country to begin with. And
Mm.
people from Sumatra are very different than people from Java Island. People
Okay.
from Java Island are very gentle and very polite and very non-confrontational and very soft-spoken and very friendly. And
Mm.
they're very, they're kind of shy. And the women are very sweet and kind of shy and in
Feminine.
Javanese, very feminine.
Yep.
Sumatrans are a different people. They are more like Arabs, and
Oh, interesting.
they're much more open to talk to you. They're much more like
Mm.
expressive. The men will come here and like touch you and like, hey, how you doing, buddy? Kind of thing. And
Interesting.
they talk like Arabs. And Sumatran women are also a little bit more feisty, a little bit more
Oh,
feisty.
interesting.
And
Okay.
their tribal situation up there, especially in a place like North Sumatra or Aceh, it's almost like Arab tribes, almost in some
Interesting.
places. Yeah, so it's part of the reason that's a more conservative part of Indonesia. That's
Mm.
why Aceh has Sharia. You're going to see more. You're more likely to see polygamy practice there in some parts of
Mm.
North Sumatra and Aceh.
Mm.
It's more like this is more like Asian, like Japanese people, and Sumatra is more like Arab people.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
What would you say to your day one Muslim self?
Man, well, it's like I said before. I was fortunate enough to have had the experience of being Eastern Orthodox and crashing and burning from that before
Mm.
becoming Muslim.
Right.
Uh, so I didn't really have to tell myself that. I wouldn't have to go back and tell myself that because I already knew. But
Right.
I will say this: I noticed, for example, that you and what's the other girl from Australia? What's her name? Lily,
From who?
Lily J.
Oh, Lily.
Lily, yeah, Lily J. Like I noticed that you guys don't wear hijab, and I know
Mm.
that for myself, I'm still learning the practices and getting accustomed to things, and I think that for us as reverts, it's really important. Do not let people suck you into something crazy.
Mm.
Figure this out for yourself. Be
Right.
patient with yourself
Yeah.
and don't let people pull you into something stupid because
Yeah.
this is the number one problem with reverts is they are very susceptible to burnout, number one, and they're very susceptible to getting pulled into something stupid.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you need guidance, but everybody wants to guide you for the sake of their own agenda. And
Right.
what you need to realize is the Muslim nation is just like America. In fact, it's more divided than America. So it's like
Yes.
imagine you're I don't know, Korean or Japanese, and you're coming to America and you know nothing about America other than,
Right.
oh wow, alhamdulillah, I'm American now. And
Right.
like you got the Republicans trying to pull you in, and the
Right.
Democrats trying to pull you in, and then you got the Libertarians trying to pull you in, and you got the Communists trying to pull you in, AOC and Bernie trying to get
Oh
you to
gosh.
support free
Yeah.
universal health care. And you're
Right.
just like, I'm just now starting to learn and read about the Constitution. Can y'all give me a second? And then
Right.
everybody's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
getting angry at you. So like
Yeah. Hurry
you
up.
wouldn't
Yeah.
let any of these people like pull you into anything.
Yeah.
Don't let Muslims try and pull you into anything. Figure it
Yeah.
out for yourself. And the people who are really good Muslims, sheikhs, and scholars and guides, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to give you guidance,
Yeah.
but they're normally not going to be super aggressive about it. You're going to go to them. You're going to, if you
Yeah.
trust your intuition, you know what right looks like. I just think of this really great meme. This is before I became Muslim. I saw this really great meme on the internet. It's always stuck with me. People ask me, "What's your madhab?" And I joke with them. This is not what I actually think, but I often say, "This meme is my madhab." And what I mean is,
Yeah.
this meme is showing a bandwidth. It's
Mm-hmm.
this one guy. He's sitting there reading the Quran, and it's at the top of this like circle of
Mm-hmm.
a diagram, and he's reading his Quran. And he's being a good Muslim. This is the real Islam right there in the middle. Is what the meme says right here. Be
Right.
here, be
Right.
right here in the middle. And then on
Right.
one end, it's got a guy going incredibly a guy who's really aggressive and wants to talk fear everybody and blow everybody up and hate them. And the meme is basically saying, don't be like that guy. And then there's this other side, which is like, hey, man, just love everybody. And
Yeah.
we're all religions are the same and peace, love, and hippie. Don't be like that guy either. Be this guy in the middle. So what I
Middleman.
would
Yeah.
say, the middle path is like, you got to avoid, there's the hippie side and there's the hater side. And you want to intuitively, even if you don't fully understand what's going on, you intuitively should want to seek the middle path,
Totally. Always. Yeah.
avoiding
Absolutely.
those
There's
extremes.
Yeah, avoiding the extremes at all times. And I know that the pendulum swings from time to time, especially when you become a revert. There's this tendency to go, hella Wahhabi, as we talked about earlier,
Yes.
or not practice at all. Like I know reverts. She's like, oh, I don't pray. I don't pray at all. I'm like, what? That's what makes us Muslim. You don't do what? Sorry. Like there's a lot of that too, right? Um, so yeah, that's the thing. I think we all sort of a lot of us enter Islam thinking we're all one ummah, and then it's sort of like this different cultural
Mm, mm,
expectations, and there's
mm,
these ideas that are like
mm.
unspoken expectations, and this like social dynamics, and it's like, wait, what? No, wait, but aren't we all just one ummah? It's like, yeah, yes, but also this. It's like, oh, okay. So I think, and that's the thing, online communities, which we talked about today on Twitter, are great, but we really need to learn in real life. Sheikh Hassan Spike was on my channel, alhamdulillah for him, and he said, yes, online communities are great if that's the only resource you have, but if that's not the only resource you have, you need to find an in real life community. That's super, super important, obviously.
Very important. Yes.
Yeah, very important. So the last thing I wanted to, the rapid fire, the fitna files. Okay. Agree or disagree? Hijrah is fard for Western Muslims.
It's not fard, but it is recommended if you can do it. And of course,
Okay.
every case is different. But the expat life is not for everybody.
Sure. White Muslims get too much platform attention. Agree or disagree?
I think some do, but I think some don't get enough.
Hmm.
I think
That's
that I
episode
think that
two coming out.
I think that I on my thing at Mr. Harry 198. Follow me on X where I'm at. I say very clearly that I am not a Shaker scholar. It's my pinned comment. I am just
Yeah.
a commentator.
Right. Of
So
course.
there's nothing wrong with us having channels and exploring things
Yeah.
and talking about things and commenting on things, but there is a problem if somebody's a revert and they're pretending to be a Shaker scholar.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's huge.
That,
And
and
also
that's
deceptive.
that is that's the reason why I used to have a beard down to here, and I had
Oh.
Indonesians coming up and giving me salim like this, like, oh, hello, sheikh, Sayyidi, assalamu
Oh
alaikum.
my
I'm like,
gosh.
I am not a sheikh. And it was
Yeah.
terrible because the more I said I'm not a sheikh or a scholar, the more I said, oh, he's humble, he's a
That's
real sheikh or scholar. No, no, stop. So I just shaved this beard because
Smart.
it was getting to be a problem.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
that's not the only reason I shave the beard, but I keep it trimmed. But
Yeah.
it was I've made it very clear I am not ustad, I'm not sheikh, I'm not scholar, I'm
Yeah.
not Sayyidi. You'd have to go through
Yeah.
many years of training to be at that level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a seeker. Yeah, for sure. Muslim Twitter is mostly people arguing with themselves. Agree or disagree?
Um, Most of the time it's just me hating on Israelis now. So I don't really know about that. Most
Okay.
of the time it's me hating on Israelis. So
Okay. Agree or disagree? Masculinity in Islam isn't what you think it is.
well, isn't what who thinks it is?
Is what the average person
Not
thinks it is.
you mean average non-Muslims in the West?
Or as average Muslims in the West. Yeah, reverts. I think this goes back to the red pill sort of. It's like, oh, that sort of thing. That sort of.
I think that's actually true. I mean, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is he's a pretty great example of prophetic masculinity, as were many of the Sahaba. But and that works both ways for both women who are feminists and men who are red pillars. Islam is a religion that says you can have up to 4 wives, but you have to treat them really well and be sweet to them.
All
But
equally.
you're also supposed to be a warrior,
Right.
and you're also supposed to work hard and take care of them. Women can work outside the house with your permission, but that's not their primary role. So when these women feminist Muslims go on and say, "Yeah, men and women are just absolutely perfectly equal," just like that's the real feminist religion. It's like, okay, yes, they're equally important, but there's also a hierarchy. So yes,
Yeah.
women have rights in Islam,
Yeah.
but it's not the same thing as feminism, girl boss feminism, and it's also not the same as ancient medieval Christianity either. It's
Right. Right. Oh my gosh.
something different. So
Yeah. Rights and
yes, I would agree with
responsibilities are
that.
very different. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to talk about before I have to go take care of my son? Speaking of being a
Oh,
mother.
speaking of being a mother, I would just again, uh, I just want to advise the brothers who, in particular, who are thinking about becoming hijrah passport bros, to be very careful and do your diligence. If you have not spent time traveling outside of the States, if you've never been outside of America for extended periods of time, outside the West,
Yeah.
and you don't know how to take care of yourself, that path is not for you. And your best bets are either to marry a Christian girl or a moderate Christian girl who's at least tolerant of your Islam and at least has good character, or to do the work to find a Muslima in your community.
Yeah.
If you're not,
Right.
but because it's not for everybody.
No, it's definitely not. Jazakallah khair, Harry. Please, everyone, follow Mr. Harry198 on X. And inshallah, I will see you online. Jazakallah khair, brother. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Luckily, here you take care. Assalamu alaikum.
You too. Walaikum salam.